Hello everyone. A few things I'd like to share with you. Just recently we had Pastor Cole Stringer visit our church, and he had some really interesting things to say. He's talking about what it is to be an Australian, and one of the things he talked about was the Kokoda Trail and how these young 17, 18-year-old guys went up there. They were called chocos. That means they're chocolate soldiers who were going to just melt in the sun because they had hardly any good equipment. They were ill prepared, poorly trained. But they went out there, up onto the Kokoda Trail in New Guinea, and they stopped an undefeated Japanese army, tremendously outnumbered. And it was really one of the great heroic regions in the Second World War that saw some of the most heroic deeds done. Now, one of the things that Cole shared were that now there are 4 memorials up there on that Kokoda Trail, and they've got a name on each one of them. And one was sacrifice, second one was mateship, the third one endurance, and the fourth one courage. And they were saying these are the 4 words that described these Aussie soldiers. Now, these, of course, are very biblical terms as well. And so he applied it and said, look, this is what we as Christians need to be. And he was talking about mateship. This is where a person is willing to lay down their life for their friend. Stick by your mate. Be loyal. And some amazing stories of the loyalty of these young men that were out there fighting for their nation. Sacrifice. They were willing to sacrifice their life for people back home. They were willing to sacrifice their future. Amazing deeds here. And wow, how biblical is that as we take up our cross and deny ourselves and follow Jesus. Then, of course, endurance. You have to endure. And as Christians, there's a lot to endure. We're in a battle. And so endurance, huge. And courage. Courage not being the absence of fear, but really overcoming the fear that faces us and being willing to do that. And so I believe these are just tremendous things for us to think about as we face the great enemy that's against us. The devil and his minions and the opposition that comes against us, that we are able to say, hey, I'm going to stick by my mate. I'm going to stick by my brother and sister. I'm going to do this, and I'm willing to lay down my life in many areas if that is necessary. And I'm going to keep at it. I'm not going to quit. And I'm going to be courageous. Even though fears will come, I'm not going to let the fears stop me. And I tell you what, we just felt was such a tremendous word for the church in Australia right now. There is a polarisation taking place in the church. One of our elders asked Cole, what do you see happening in the church as you travel around, because Cole Stringer travels from church to church ministering. And he sees one thing in Australia particularly, a polarisation between 2 types of Christians, or 2 types of churches maybe. And I guess you'd say it's between those who are self-centred and those who are God-centred. There are those that are seeking a church that will meet their needs. And there are others that are seeking intimacy with God, and as a result their needs will be met, but quite a different approach. And so we can find it very easy to be seeking out that church that'll meet my needs. See, that's not a New Testament model at all. Also, we find ourselves in this postmodern, many ways, any way will do, what is going to please me type society, where the biblical one is quite different. It's one way, it's God's way, and it's not to please us but to please God. So we're living in a society that's very, very much a polarisation taking place, and even the churches can go one way or the other. One of the things I believe God has been saying to me a lot is that he will build his church. Jesus said, I will build my church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. And what we've been out doing is trying to build his church. And now he'll build his church, and what our job is not so much to build his church, but to do what he says. We can be workers together with him, but he's the boss and he's leading the way. And often we say, well, if we could be more seeker friendly or more visitor friendly, that will be the thing. But now that's okay, but I wonder sometimes if we're more visitor friendly than we are Holy Spirit friendly. And I believe the biblical approach is let's first be Holy Spirit friendly, God friendly. Does God like this? Is this what God has told us to do? Is this God's way? Is this his approach, or is this some other approach as we try to do his job and build the church? And so these are some things we need to really think about. As I speak to you as a pastor, there's a general opinion, I think you probably agree, that pastoring is getting harder and harder, tougher and tougher, as we are living in the midst of what some are calling a post-Christian time. One of the interesting things that's happening is we used to always hear that the great enemies of the pastor are the girls, the gold and the glory. Well, right now that's not the major enemy. The major enemy seems to be stress and anxiety and fear and worry. So really things are changing. There's pressures that have never been there to this extent before. So I want to just say, look, in the light of what I've been sharing, we really need mates. Pastors, we need mates, and we need friends. We need people who are willing to put aside their time and ministry for a while to come and stand alongside someone else. Now, this may not be, or it could be someone within, say, ACM, but maybe it's in your local area, maybe it's in a network in which you're also involved. But I believe we really do need mates who are willing to sacrifice some time and sacrifice maybe something for them, their own church, just to come alongside and help. Otherwise, we're going to find it very, very difficult to maintain our joy. Also, of course, we need great courage and great endurance. And, the first two, the sacrifice I'm speaking about and the mateship, that's what we do one for another. That's the brother loving brother, sister loving sister, that thing which I think is really important in the ministry. But then there's the endurance and the courage that we need. And while we can be encouraged by other people, really that comes from our seeking God first. And I know I am being pushed more and more into relationship with the Lord. It's like I can't do this thing without seeking his face, without hearing from him. And so it's out of that I have the courage and the endurance to keep going. And it's sometimes difficult. And I do need the help of my brother who's going to come alongside and be there with me in difficult times. And so we are in a battle. And I want to encourage you that we are the winners, and Jesus is our King, and if we'll do it his way, we will definitely win. So God bless you, and I just pray this might have been some help to you.